In New Zealand, the world of Middle-earth has come to life again and again. Filming sites for adaptations of Tolkien's world are spread all across the country. Now, these are places that I always dreamed of visiting, but I've always had a feeling that without some kind of guidance, planning my own trip would be a bit of a time-consuming quest in futility. And this is where the great folks at Red Carpet Tours came soaring to my aid like a heroic eagle. And over the course of 2 weeks, I took in the adventure of a lifetime, where our tour visited iconic locations from Middle-earth, and they arranged interactions with some of the incredibly talented professionals who brought the films to life. Thanks to them, today on Nerd of the Rings, we are visiting filming locations from Middle-earth. Our adventure began in the most appropriate of filming landmarks, Hobbiton. There could not have been a better way to start the tour. From the moment you walk through the iconic hedges at the entryway to having a pint at the Green Dragon, I truly felt like I had stepped into the world of Middle-earth.
I'm going on an adventure!
We're in a hobbit hole right now. So it's super hot and I have this wool cloak on. And I'm sitting in front of the fire, but I don't care, it's just too cozy. Even though I'm sweating, it's cozy. I got my cider. This is the hobbity life.
Now, I had the chance to explore Hobbiton for a day with one of their incredible guides, so check out that video for a full-on tour with me and Luke. I would have loved to stay in Hobbiton even longer, soaking in every rich detail, but the road goes ever on and our journey was just getting started. From Hobbiton, our fellowship journeyed to the Trollshaws.
Holy smokes. Oh my word.
Now, if there's a word that I'm going to be using a lot in this video, it's stunning. Stepping off our bus, I was in awe of the unmistakable, stunning natural landscape. The Trollshaws rest within a family-owned farm consisting of 600 acres and nearly 10,000 sheep. This location was used in about 22 minutes of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, most notably in the scenes where Thorin's company encounter the trolls, the warg ambush in the woods, and Radagast recalling Dol Guldur.
This is such a cool tree right here. I really like this tree. I've never been so excited to touch moss before. This is Middle-earth moss.
Now, this site was also used for scenes from the first season of The Rings of Power, such as when the Stranger, or Gandalf if you want to get all Season 2 about this, looking at the constellations in the sky. And it's also where he walks into the forest in the final episode. The hosts here have clearly worked hard to keep all these film locations preserved and well marked over the years. As they guided us through each of the recognizable spots, they shared great behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew and what it was like to have their farm transformed into a movie set. The production team did such a great job creating new additions to the landscape that it's truly hard to tell the difference between a natural rock and a block of styrofoam in the film. The iconic cliff wall is an all-natural wonder, though. It's wild to think that this was just sitting in someone's backyard, waiting to be discovered. And beyond the movie locations themselves, I just can't help but fall in love with the lush forest and rolling hills surrounding the farm.
Just one more for luck.
The next day we ventured south, passing more stunning New Zealand scenery and climbing snowy mountains. We came to a stop at the secret entrance to Erebor, located near the top of the Lonely Mountain.
All right, so we've been driving up this mountain, and it's actually an active volcano, which is wild, but that is the secret door of Erebor. So we're seeing a little set. We got the waterfall here from the Hobbit movie.
This setting was used in the Desolation of Smaug, and while it was enhanced with some post-production magic, this is definitely recognizable as the spot where Thorin and his company gain access to the halls of the treasure within.
Okay, so if you look real closely, you can see an orc head on a spike right up there. I don't think that's actually what it is, but that's what we're going with.
Not far away, we also explored a filming location from the Two Towers, instantly recognizable as the spot where Gollum struggles to catch a fish while Frodo and Sam watch. It's crazy to imagine a production crew successfully utilizing this terrain, as the gentle stream quickly gives way to a plunging waterfall over a steep cliff edge. Again, it's stunning. As we took in the sights, we were given plenty of time to recreate the scene, and, well, I did my best to make Andy Serkis proud.
I just had to go for it, you know? Got a couple scrapes, but well worth it.
After a lunch stop that reminded me of my farm boy roots, we were off to spend 3 days in the capital city of New Zealand and home to the magicians of its film industry, Wellington. This was the central hub for producing the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies, as well as many other great films. Unsurprisingly, there are a few Lord of the Rings filming locations sprinkled around town. Most significantly, we visited some sites used in the Fellowship of the Ring, including the iconic spot where the hobbits get off the road. And while the tree from the film isn't actually there, we are able to use our imagination a bit to recreate the scene.
Oh yeah, these are awesome. Look at this.
Nearby, we also explored the tree where Frodo and Sam first see the elves. And this is one that still looks exactly like it does in the film. It's wild that these filming locations are just casually tucked away in a public park, waiting to be discovered. But once you set foot in the peaceful greenery and get comfortable, it's easy to see what appealed to the filmmakers about these spots.
Kind of like that way. Like that, there you go.
After exploring the woods, we took a lunch break in town at the Roxy. While the theater obviously doesn't appear in the films, it has some great Middle-earth connections. The Roxy Cinema opened its doors April 1st, 2011 to an opening party with the cast and crew of the Hobbit trilogy. Among the co-owners are Weta Workshop co-founder Tanya Roger and Jamie Selkirk, the editor of The Return of the King. This gorgeous Art Deco cinema theater is one of the city's leading attractions, beautifully designed throughout to capture that classic Hollywood feel. Among the many great things to admire is Jamie's Oscar he won for The Return of the King in 2004. Wellington is also home to Weta Workshop, the incredible production studio responsible for the amazing props, prosthetics, and sets in the films. Now, we weren't allowed to record much of this part of the journey, but what we saw was incredible stuff that left me with a deeper appreciation for the details and craftsmanship that Weta pours into each of their efforts. The day capped off with a visit to the Weta Cave, the very shop where you can physically purchase many of the collectibles that Weta has produced over the years.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
The next day, we were joined by a very special movie guest, Daniel Reeve, the calligrapher, artist, and mapmaker for both film trilogies, the Rings of Power series, and the new War of the Rohirrim. He gave us a presentation of his work, sharing some amazing behind-the-scenes stories, and I actually had a chance to sit down with Daniel and talk to him about his work and his experience, so be sure to check out that interview here on the channel. But for now, I'll just say the experience of sitting in the room with this man who has contributed so much to the visual look of Middle-earth on screen is one I won't forget. The next morning, we departed to catch an early ferry to the South Island. The 3.5-hour journey across the water was a great chance to watch a New Zealand sunrise and continue soaking in the stunning beauty of this country. It was well worth the early wake-up call. Once we made it across the water, it wasn't surprising to discover the South Island was just as stunning as the North Island, with plenty of adventure and discovery still to come. After a scenic drive through the countryside, it was time to visit our next filming location. This spot was used to capture the memorable barrel riding sequence in the Desolation of Smaug, standing in for the forest river that flows from Mirkwood to the Long Lake. We had the opportunity to gear up, get in the water, and gain some hands-on experience on the river.
We are in kayaks. I asked for a barrel, but was told that I was dangerous and foolish and Matt, which is just my name, but it was more so the tone that they used. All right, so we just had a small pit stop here. This is where the dwarves come out of their barrels in the Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. Okay, so this is the Pelennor Bridge. During filming of The Hobbit, they famously had to leave the set because flash flooding was coming. And the water, we're told, is reached all the way up to the bridge, which is crazy.
The next morning in the town of Nelson, it was time to get airborne with Helicopters Nelson. This is the same crew that worked with the Lord of the Rings production team, carrying cast and crew members up and down the surrounding mountains for filming. Our destination that morning was Mount Olympus, the site used for the area south of Rivendell in the Fellowship of the Ring when the Fellowship is resting.
We're about to hop in a helicopter. I've never been in a helicopter before, so yeah, hopefully it's not too freaky. We'll find out.
During our flight through the mountains, the pilots shared stories about scouting locations with the film crew and what it was like working with the actors each day.
The Tartica Township is down to our right, really close to the sea, and that's where the cast, the space, they would drive around to a farm up the Erebor Valley, and right up there was the shortest flight. That made no sense, especially when the weather comes in, like it can change in like 10 minutes and then the helis can't land. And so if they needed to get people out really fast, they needed the shortest distance possible to come on. Who said, you know, they'd get up at 4 a.m. to start on the makeup and get ready for the day, and then we told that the weather's not suitable. It's really frustrating.
The mountain range itself is very impressive, but upon our approach to the shooting location, the landscape became instantly recognizable. How the production team zeroed in on this particular spot is kind of astounding, and to set foot on it was truly awesome. We were given plenty of time to explore the rocks and recreate the scenes that happened here without fear of Dunlin Crebine.
I am currently hiding from the Crebine from Dunland.
Yeah.
This is the rock that Frodo and Aragorn hide under in Fellowship of the Ring.
And go up here. Got Gandalf's spot. I think he comes up and says, "The passage south is being watched. You must take the pass of Carathras."
While we were on Mount Olympus, I also took the opportunity to unbox a Gwaihir statue I bought at the Weta Cave. It just felt like the right thing to do, and it remains my most memorable unboxing location. That is, until I get back to this wonderful country again someday. After journeying back down the mountain, it was time to go see a man about a ring.
All right, guys, we are in Nelson, New Zealand today, and we are talking about rings, specifically the one ring to rule them all. I am at Jens Hansen, creators of the One Ring, as well as a couple other rings that you might remember from the books and films.
Jens Hansen is still operating as a jeweler today, with Jens's oldest son, Hobbiton, continuing the family legacy.
You know, if you time warped a jeweler in here from 300 years ago, a lot of the gear here they would be familiar with. It's very traditional to work at the little benches with the half-circle cutouts and the animal skins underneath to catch and recycle any lost gold. The nice thing for us is it all happens in the context and the form of the trade as it's probably been for hundreds of years.
This was our chance to tour the facility where the One Ring was crafted, getting a look into the process of ring making, and learning about the craftsmanship involved. And I had the opportunity to talk with Hobbiton more about the One Ring and how Jens Hansen was chosen as its designer.
He was really well known in New Zealand as a founder of the artisanal craft jewelry movement. So the people in the art department of 3 Foot 6, the production company for the movies, they knew of him and they did come straight to him. You know, some people say, was it a competition or something like that? The truth was they already knew him really well and said, hey, you know, we'd like you to do it.
It seems like such a simple design, but it's also very elegant. There's a weight to it.
Exactly, yeah. It's an elegant minimalism, but it makes it feels and looks heavy. It's got a gravitas, and it's probably twice as heavy as your average heavy guy's ring. And it's made in solid 18 karat yellow gold. And the secret sauce, if you like, is in the thickness of the band. It's much thicker than normal, and that makes it really comfortable. It's got a really smooth, forgiving curve on it. And we also made some big rings where we needed to work on scale, because the movies are all about playing with scale and perspective, making the big look small and the small look big. And we call this guy, for reasons that are about to become obvious, the stunt ring.
Look at that.
Right.
Oh my word.
So this guy is almost 3 kilos. That's about 6-7 pound gold plated steel ring that we had turned in the machine shop, hand polished. It took about 3 days for the guys to hand polish it before we could put the gold plating on, because it has to be mirror finished before you can gold plate it. And they use that in scenes in the movie to show the scale and also to get that beautiful reflection that you can see here.
Our journey took us from green farmlands in the north to the great mountains in the middle of the South Island. As we ventured down the gravel road, stopping for herds of sheep and admiring the snow-capped peaks, it became clear that we had arrived in the land of the Horse Lords.
Welcome to Edoras.
After all we had seen so far on this trip, I thought I had gotten used to how breathtaking the New Zealand scenery could be. But nothing could prepare me for how awe-inspiring Edoras was. Surrounded by mountains on every side with picturesque landscapes to explore all around, this area was cinematic in every sense of the word.
There's just mountains everywhere. This is the best.
And just like Julie, our tour guide for the North Island, Josh, our tour guide for the South, made sure we didn't miss any of the memorable spots from the films. Our fellowship hiked across paths and streams, pausing at the base of the mountain to visit the filming location where Theoden buried his son Theodred.
This is where they filmed the funeral mounds. Gandalf was giving him words of encouragement, words of kindness. This divot that I'm in right now is where Theoden falls to his knees and mourns Theodred's death. This is the location right here. That rock up there was covered by a funeral mound as well, and all around us.
From there, we began to climb, fighting to keep our breath as we admired the incredible views around us.
I'm gonna have so many pictures of these rocks. It's gonna be great.
Further up, we finally reached the summit.
Okay, so we have hiked to the top of Edoras, and there's just mountains everywhere. Every direction you look, there are just mountains, and I love it. It's amazing.
This filming location is truly incredible. No matter where you look, the view was unparalleled. It was definitely a spot fit for a king.
This first hill just before the river, that is where Aragorn and Brago arrived to Helm's Deep.
Throughout our entire 2-week trip, Red Carpet Tours had a collection of props for some fun photo ops in these iconic locations. And my favorite just might be standing atop the highest rock on Edoras, holding the Rohan flag.
Here at Edoras, I am currently sitting roughly in the same spot that Aragorn was sitting in when he was sitting here enjoying his breakfast, and he spots the beacons of Minas Tirith, and then he, of course, goes running to let King Theoden know. And again, there's just mountains everywhere. It just, no matter where you look, it's just beautiful.
Now, if we were naming according to the books, this beacon would be Ithilien. However, that's on the border of Gondor and Rohan, as they don't go all the way to Edoras in the books. But for now, I'll avoid the nerd rabbit hole and keep us on task with the tour. So Edoras may be the land of the Horse Lords, but my inner dwarf just couldn't help grinning from ear to ear during our visit to Edoras. Our next morning was all about Laketown. We made a short stop to view Aoraki, or Mount Cook. It's the tallest mountain in New Zealand and has been featured in several of the Middle-earth films, including standing in as the background for Laketown. From there, we headed to the area used for the physical construction of Laketown, meeting the local landowner, who is a very eccentric fellow, and admiring the glacial blue water. And it was here that you really start to appreciate how well Red Carpet Tours does what they do, as their connections to people associated with the films allows for access to areas that are closed to the public.
We actually have some of the ruins of Laketown that the filmmakers were kind enough to give to the farmer who owns this land. So yeah, we've got a little bit of the ruins of Laketown. You'll remember this scene. We see Legolas, Tauriel, some of the dwarves. I think that's it. I don't think there's any other major characters. No other major characters whatsoever. It's kind of cool. We can see this makeshift tent kind of thing. It's built out of pieces of the former town after Smaug has destroyed it. Here, the main beam here is actually a paddle, an oar from a boat. So that's kind of a cool little detail.
Now, real quick, it's worth noting that these sets are left standing at the request of the landowner. One thing we are told time and again by landowners at places like the Trollshaws is that the crew of the Peter Jackson films were meticulous about leaving the land exactly as they found it. Now, no trip to Laketown would be complete without a dragon encounter, and thanks to the faithful Red Carpet Tours prop bag, we are able to follow in Bard's footsteps, taking aim at Smaug and doing our best to send an arrow through his heart.
Ollie!
Oh,
You actually hit it.
I hit the house. Horrible.
I gotta say, I don't think Bard or Legolas has any competition coming from me.
But give me a mighty axe and I could slay the beast.
From the blue shores of Laketown, we ventured to the golden hills of the Pelennor Fields. This area was heavily featured in The Return of the King, during the massive battle outside the city of Minas Tirith.
This bit of mountains behind us, you can actually see that when Gandalf comes riding out of Minas Tirith to save Faramir and his troops. Those are the mountains that are in the background. All right, now we flipped around the other way and we see the ridge that the Rohirrim arrive upon as they come over the hill, and they all stand in this big epic long line. This is that location. Pretty darn cool to be out here on the fields of Pelennor.
Now, significant post-production work was done to alter the landscape for the film, but this is unquestionably the site where the epic battle for Middle-earth went down. It's definitely a beautiful place to take a stand against the forces of Sauron. But even beyond that, it's just a beautiful place to explore, soaking in the New Zealand air while appreciating the miles of rolling scenery. Our fellowship stayed in Queenstown for the final leg of our trip. A picturesque city with several Lord of the Rings filming locations and lots of adventure positioned close by. As we set off for our last day together as a group, we split into 2 teams aboard the bus for a spirited Middle-earth trivia competition.
What is, I need the full title on this, what is the helmet passed down from Hurin to Turin?
Arriving at our first destination, we were hit with our first and only day of rain during the entire tour, which is pretty amazing from a weather standpoint. This area was used for a few scenes throughout the Lord of the Rings trilogy, most notable as the entrance to Fangorn Forest.
You might not recognize this particular spot right away, but it might help if I were to help you visualize it. So this is the spot of the funeral mound of all the dead orcs that the Rohirrim have slaughtered in the night, and they pile them up and burn them. So we're gonna continue on our Fangorn journey here.
The tree line had been damaged due to some recent storms, but this was unmistakably the land where Treebeard dwells.
This is the spot where Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli walk into Fangorn Forest, and there's some CG wizardry going on in the films to make it a little more foreboding. Right here, it seems like a pretty standard forest, not all that scary. I don't think I'll go in there because I'll probably get lost. So I'll stay out here with you guys. All right, and now our final spot for this little adventure. This is where Gandalf stands and does that epic whistle where we are first introduced to Shadowfax, a very majestic place to meet the Lord of Horses.
Here again, I couldn't help being super impressed with Red Carpet Tours. Their ability to fish out and keep track of these shooting locations is really impressive. It would be really easy to miss these spots without them as our guides. The next morning, I took an ATV ride through some rough terrain to reach a few more of the remote filming locations from The Lord of the Rings. Along the way, we discovered the camping site in Ithilien, where Frodo, Sam, and Gollum argue over the proper eating of conies, before seeing where they encounter their first Oliphaunts. Along the way, we saw the site used to compose the Argonath, the Pillars of the Kings, and also the scenery used as the Misty Mountains in The Hobbit. Once the ATV ride was over, it was time to get airborne again. Glacier Southern Lakes helicopters worked closely with Peter Jackson on the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogies for principal filming in this area of the South Island. I caught a flight with them to get an aerial view of some of the filming locations that were used throughout the trilogy. As we ventured over the hills and mountains surrounding Queenstown, our guide pointed out the filming sites for the Ford of Bruinen, as well as the Valley of Isengard and Lothlorien. Passing by the Misty Mountains again, our helicopter came to a rest on an actual glacier. We were able to get out on the ice and explore, and it was cold, but the view more than made up for it. While not a filming location, this stop was a final chance to take in the stunning landscape of New Zealand. From there, our fellowship set out for a local river that was used as the River Anduin in the Fellowship of the Ring, just after the Argonath is passed and the fellowship nears the Falls of Rauros. We were also able to follow a Maori tradition of blessing greenstone in these beautiful still waters. It made for a nice peaceful break in the middle of our day. For our final destination, we visited the forest that stood in for Amon Hen, heavily utilized during the final scenes of the Fellowship of the Ring as our heroes are attacked. Navigating the rugged terrain in person made me all the more appreciative of the technical wizardry it took to capture Uruk-hai running over hills and battling the Fellowship. Much of the trees and foliage are still standing from the time of filming, making it easy to recreate scenes.
Over here, quick!
Finally, we came to the shores of the Anduin, the very spot where Frodo weighs the burden of carrying the ring, and the place where he and Sam set off to complete their task. This made for a rather poignant end to our tour. Just as this served as the location of the breaking of the Fellowship, our journey together had also come to an end. After so many days of fun and adventure together, it made for a beautiful moment to celebrate and reflect alongside the peaceful waters of the Anduin.
Now we're at our final location here with Red Carpet Tours. This is the breaking of the Fellowship. So this is where Frodo and Sam make the decision to cross the river. This is actually a lake technically, but they cross the River Anduin and make their way on to Mordor alone. So it's kind of appropriate that this would be our last stop. I can't soak it in enough, honestly. It's wild. For now, we'll just soak in the last images of this wonderful shooting location from The Lord of the Rings.
I truly can't thank the folks at Red Carpet Tours enough for the amazing experience of visiting so many iconic locations from the Middle-earth films. If you've always wanted to experience these magical lands, they run their 14-day tours each and every month of the year. Just as this small family-run business has done since 2002, they'll be sure to make it an experience and adventure worthy of remembrance.